So today we're actually doing a third video because we're doing two lessons in one. Why? Because 8.2 and 8.3 are the exact same thing. They're just wording it a little differently. So for the last one, we did things like 2 times 2 over 4. We have something like that, right? And we remember from 8.2, you take the whole number, you multiply it by the top number, you get 4, because 2 times 2 is 4 over 4. Whoops. And we get 4 over 4, which we know is actually 1. But we're doing the exact same thing. It's just they're going to ask you one group of blank, two groups of blank. Now, when we talk about groups, I want you to think like this. So let's say I said I want all of the class to get into groups. I want 2 groups of 5. If I were to get 2 groups of 5, how many people would be in my first group? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how many would be in the second group if there's 2 groups of 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and 5. How many people are there in total? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So 2 groups of 5 is 10. Now we're going to do that with fractions. So with fractions, just like we had done in the last one, it's exactly the same. So if Zaria practices violin for 3/4 of an hour, how many So, if Zaria practices violin for 3/4 of an hour, right? So 3/4, that's an important number. I would put a circle around it. In a word problem, I circle the important numbers and the important things that they say. Zaria practices violin for 3/4 of an hour. How many hours does she practice in 3 days? So if each day she's doing 3/4 of an hour and she's practicing for 3/4 of an hour for 3 days, think about it. What operation are we doing? Is it addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? You have to do something for 3/4 of an hour today, and then the next day, and the next day. That is not division. It is not subtraction. It can only be repeated addition or multiplication. So this is a multiplication problem. Now, just like I had said, we're doing this in groups. So what you would think of this as is make 3 circles, cut them into fourths, because the bottom number tells us 3/4 tells us that it's going to be cut into 4s. And you're going to color in 3 of those. This is how we would do this as a picture. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I colored in 3/4 for each one because there's 3 days. This is day 1, day 2, day 3. And they're asking, whoops, almost dropped it. They're asking, how many hours does she practice in a day? Now, what you could do is count up how many triangles, how many of these little triangles there are in total across the days. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you would put down 12. 12 as your bottom number because that's how many pieces we have. And as your top number, you'd count the pink. 3, 6, 9. Because we have 3 in the first one, 3 in the second one, 3 in the third one. All right, 9 12s. Or if you wanted to get really fancy, you can find that exact same answer by using the strategy that we did yesterday. So we have 3 days is our whole times 3 over 4 is our fraction. We do the whole number times the top number. 3 times 3 is 9, and we put it over 4. But nobody really says, I practiced violin for 9/4 hours. We should probably put it into a whole and a fraction. So, first we have 9 over 4. We subtract, and we're going to separate this. Let's separate it so it's easy to see. We subtract 4 over 4 because that is a whole. And we put a 1 underneath. And that gives us 5 over 4. But we're not done because the 5 is bigger than the 4. 5 is bigger than 4, so we're going to subtract 4 over 4 again. And we put a 1 under that because that's another whole, and we get 1 over 4 left over. And then we add those together. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1/4 is 2, and 1 over 4. And that, my friends, is our answer. He practices for 2 1/4 hours in 3 days. Or she practices, I apologize. Zaria is the one practicing. So Zaria practices her violin for 2 1/4 hours. You can either leave it like this, 9 1/4, or you can write it like this. I would suggest you practice writing it like this because later on we're going to need that. It's going to come up later, and you'll see it on the test that you're going to take. You'll see it on the quizzes, so you might want to practice getting it to a number and a fraction.